Elizabeth Bennet stood at the edge of the lake on Pemberley's grounds, the wind tugging gently at the hem of her dress, carrying whispers of a summer that had lost its warmth. The manor's grand silhouette loomed behind her, a monument to the life that might have been a life she had once imagined with Mr. Darcy by her side. Yet, here she was, alone, the weight of silence pressing upon her soul. It had been weeks since his sudden illness claimed him before he could confess the truth that might have altered everything between them. The shock had shattered her carefully held prejudices and forced her into a grief that was as bewildering as it was profound. How often had she misjudged him? How often had she allowed pride to blind her to the kindness beneath? Now, with the season turning, Elizabeth had withdrawn from the society that once captivated her, retreating to a modest cottage near Meriden, where the quiet air and simple surroundings offered a refuge from the gossip and judgment she could no longer bear. The friends she had once cherished now seemed distant, and the sharp edges of their conversations cut too deeply. Her days began with the dawn's pale light, her fingers trembling over blank pages, the ink spilling slowly as she wrestled with the words that refused to come easily. Writing was a new world for her, a realm where she could give voice to the turmoil within and perhaps, in time, find a way to forgive herself. Her first attempts were halting, filled with the sharp sting of regret and the ache of unspoken truths. The characters she created mirrored her own struggles, women of spirit and wit, caught in webs of expectation and sorrow, yet reaching toward hope. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the window pane, a letter arrived bearing the seal of the Fitzwilliam family. Colonel Fitzwilliam himself had taken it upon himself to visit, bringing news of Darcy's last days and a request to bridge the distance between Elizabeth and the past she sought to leave behind. Their meeting was tentative at first, marked by shared grief and unspoken understandings. Fitzwilliam's gentle presence became a balm to her restless heart, and their conversations wandered through memories, regrets, and the fragile possibility of friendship born from loss. As months passed, Elizabeth's writing flourished. Her stories found their way into the hands of readers far beyond Hertfordshire, tales woven with the complexities of love, pride, and the quiet strength of those who dare to change. Yet even as her public life grew, her private reflections remained intertwined with the shadow of Darcy's absence. She pondered what might have been, how a single moment, a single word, could have reshaped the course of their lives. One day, a chance encounter with Mary, now a respected scholar, stirred a new sense of purpose within Elizabeth. Through Mary's insights and encouragement, Elizabeth found the courage to explore not only her grief but the broader world beyond her losses. Together, they debated philosophy, the nature of human folly, and the possibility of redemption. Elizabeth's circle widened, embracing new friendships that challenged and nurtured her evolving spirit. In time, Elizabeth was invited to share her work at a gathering of progressive thinkers, an occasion that symbolized her emergence from the shadows of her past into a future defined by her own voice. There, surrounded by minds as sharp as her own and hearts as open, Elizabeth Bennet, once a young woman of quick judgments and fierce pride, found a new home. Her story, forever altered by loss, had become a testament to resilience, to the power of self-reinvention, and to the enduring strength of love, even when it is never spoken aloud. Elizabeth Bennet sat by the window of her small study, the afternoon sun filtering through delicate lace curtains, casting dappled patterns on the worn wooden floor. The cottage was modest but warm, a far cry from the grand halls of Pemberley or the bustling drawing rooms of London, yet it was a sanctuary she had come to cherish. Here, amid stacks of paper and scattered ink pots, she had found a purpose that had once seemed impossible. Her pen moved steadily across the page, each word a step away from the pain that had once threatened to consume her. The stories she wove were not mere fantasies but reflections of a world she knew intimately, the sharp sting of loss, the bitterness of regret, and the fragile hope that rose like dawn after the darkest nights. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. She looked up to see her sister Jane entering, a gentle smile lighting her features despite the years that had tempered their youthful brightness. "Lizzie," Jane said softly, approaching the desk. "You must rest. You've been writing for hours." Elizabeth smiled faintly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. "I will, soon. There is much to say, and fewer ears willing to listen." Jane sat beside her, placing a comforting hand over Elizabeth's. "You have given voice to many, dear sister. Your words carry the strength of truth." They spoke quietly then, sharing memories of Darcy, the man whose absence had reshaped their lives. Elizabeth confessed the weight of unspoken feelings and the cruel twist of fate that had stolen his chance to reveal them. "I wonder," Elizabeth whispered, "if forgiveness is truly possible when love dies before it can live." Jane squeezed her hand gently. "Forgiveness begins with the self, Lizzie. And love endures, even when words fail." Their conversation drifted to the future, hopeful, uncertain, yet filled with possibility. Jane spoke of her own family's growth, of children, and new beginnings, while Elizabeth shared her ambitions to publish her work and reach hearts beyond their small world. As twilight settled, Jane rose to leave, her presence a balm to Elizabeth's restless spirit. Alone once more, Elizabeth returned to her writing, her mind alive with characters and stories that danced between reality and imagination. Days turned to weeks, and with each passing season, Elizabeth's reputation as a writer blossomed. Her novels, praised for their insight and emotional depth, found eager readers who saw in her words a mirror to their own struggles. Yet Elizabeth remained guarded, wary of the social circles she once navigated with ease. The world of balls and assemblies no longer called to her. Instead, she found joy in the quiet exchanges of letters, the friendship of fellow writers, and the solitary walk through the countryside that had become her sanctuary. One afternoon, a letter arrived bearing the seal of Colonel Fitzwilliam. He wrote with warmth and respect, inviting Elizabeth to visit Pemberley once more, not as a guest of society, but as a friend who had known Darcy's true heart. The invitation stirred a mixture of emotions: fear, nostalgia, and a fragile hope. After long contemplation, Elizabeth accepted, determined to confront the shadows of her past and find peace amid the grandeur of the estate that had once symbolized so much. Her return to Pemberley was both haunting and healing. The estate, meticulously maintained, seemed to hold the echoes of laughter and loss within its walls. Fitzwilliam welcomed her with gentle kindness, and together they walked the gardens, spoke of Darcy's character, and shared stories that brought him back to life in memory. Elizabeth found herself opening to the possibility of friendship, and perhaps something more, in the steady presence of Fitzwilliam, a man who had loved his cousin deeply and understood the complexities of the heart. In the quiet moments beneath the ancient oaks, Elizabeth reflected on the journey that had brought her here from grief and regret to acceptance and renewal. Her story was no longer defined by what had been lost, but by the strength she had found to tell her truth and embrace the future. As evening shadows lengthened, Elizabeth felt a lightness within her spirit, a gentle promise that, though the past could never be undone, the heart's capacity for love and growth was boundless. And so, with pen in hand and hope in her heart, Elizabeth Bennet began to write the next chapter of her life. Elizabeth awoke to the soft chirping of birds outside her window, their song a gentle reminder that life, despite its sorrows, continued onward. The cottage smelled faintly of damp earth and parchment, a scent she had come to associate with both her solitude and her newfound purpose. She dressed quietly and descended the narrow stairs to the small kitchen where breakfast awaited. Her thoughts drifted to the letter from Colonel Fitzwilliam, now resting on the table like a fragile bridge to a past she both feared and longed to revisit. The journey back to Pemberley was a tapestry of emotions. The carriage rolled steadily along winding roads bordered by hedgerows heavy with the late summer bloom. Each mile seemed to carry her further from the woman she had been and closer to the one she was becoming. Upon arrival, Fitzwilliam greeted her with a warm embrace, his presence a steadying force amid the grandeur of the estate. The staff offered courteous smiles, their respect a quiet testament to Darcy's enduring legacy. That evening, as candles flickered in the drawing room, Fitzwilliam shared stories of his cousin's last days, tales of unspoken affection, quiet acts of kindness, and the heavy burden Darcy had carried in silence. Elizabeth listened, her heart swelling with a bittersweet mixture of sorrow and understanding. The man she had once misjudged revealed himself anew through the eyes of one who loved him dearly. Days turned to weeks as Elizabeth settled into the rhythms of Pemberley, exploring the gardens and wandering the library aisles that had once been Darcy's refuge. She found comfort in these familiar spaces, their quiet dignity reflecting the complexity of the man she mourned. During this time, Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam's conversations deepened, traversing topics from literature and philosophy to the intricacies of the human heart. Their bond grew not from romantic expectation but from shared grief and mutual respect. One afternoon, as they walked beneath the ancient oaks, Fitzwilliam spoke softly. "Your writing, it captures a truth that many fear to confront. You have a gift, Elizabeth, a gift that can heal as much as it reveals." She smiled, a mixture of gratitude and vulnerability. "Sometimes, I wonder if the words I write are for others, or simply for myself." He regarded her with gentle sincerity. "Perhaps they are both." The season shifted, and with it came invitations from distant acquaintances and literary circles. Elizabeth, once reluctant to re-enter society, began to accept, her confidence bolstered by the support of friends new and old. Her works were met with admiration, their candid exploration of love, loss, and resilience resonating deeply with readers. Letters arrived from women who found solace in her stories, men who pondered their own failings, and scholars who admired her keen insight. Yet, amid these successes, Elizabeth remained grounded by the quiet moments in which she revisited Darcy's memory, not with bitterness, but with a gentle acceptance that love, in all its forms, leaves an indelible mark. In time, the relationship between Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam blossomed into a tender companionship. Neither sought to replace the past but rather to build upon the foundations of understanding and shared experience. Their union was one born not from sudden passion but from the steady flame of respect, kindness, and the recognition that life's greatest gifts often arise from its deepest trials. Elizabeth Bennet's journey marked by loss, reflection, and transformation became a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to love, forgive, and grow. As she gazed upon the rolling hills from Pemberley's windows, pen poised above paper, Elizabeth felt a profound peace settle within her. The story she had once thought ended was simply beginning anew. Elizabeth's days settled into a rhythm she had not known before, each dawn bringing new reflections and each evening ending with the quiet scratch of pen on paper. Yet, the world beyond Pemberley stirred with its own tempests, reminding her that grief and renewal did not exist in isolation. One crisp autumn morning, news arrived at the estate that unsettled the calm. Lydia Bennet, Elizabeth's youngest sister, had caused quite a scandal in London. Her impulsive nature and reckless marriage to Mr. Wickham were no secret, but whispers of debts and social improprieties had reached even the quiet halls of Pemberley. Elizabeth's heart ached for Lydia, her reckless spirit now trapped in consequences that stretched beyond her years. Fitzwilliam, ever the steady presence, placed a reassuring hand on Elizabeth's shoulder as she absorbed the news. Family trials test us in unexpected ways. You need not bear the weight alone. Determined to aid her sister, Elizabeth resolved to journey back to London, not as the naive girl she had once been but as a woman tempered by loss and strengthened by purpose. She carried with her a letter of introduction from Fitzwilliam and a resolve to mend the fractures within her family. London's streets welcomed her with their usual bustle and noise, a stark contrast to the quiet of the countryside. Elizabeth navigated the complexities of society with a keen eye and a tempered spirit, finding allies among old friends and new acquaintances. She sought to protect Lydia from ruin, negotiating with creditors and soothing tempers where she could. Amid these challenges, Elizabeth reconnected with Charlotte Lucas, whose practical wisdom proved invaluable. Charlotte, now managing her own household with steady hands, offered counsel and support, reminding Elizabeth that resilience often meant accepting help as well as giving it. The experience stirred within Elizabeth a deeper understanding of society's harsh judgments and the precarious balance women navigated. It fueled her writing with renewed urgency, a call to empathy and change wrapped in the guise of storytelling. Back at Pemberley, Fitzwilliam awaited her return, their reunion marked by quiet relief and shared resolve. Their bond, forged in sorrow and tempered by experience, grew stronger still as they faced life's trials together. Meanwhile, at Longbourn, Jane and Mr. Bingley cultivated their own happiness, their gentle love a steady light amid the unfolding dramas. Their correspondence with Elizabeth became a lifeline, weaving threads of connection across the miles. As Elizabeth's works gained prominence, she found herself invited to salons and literary gatherings, spaces where ideas flowed freely and new friendships blossomed. She spoke boldly of the need for compassion, the dangers of pride, and the power of personal transformation. One evening, amidst the flickering candlelight of a London drawing room, Elizabeth engaged in a spirited debate with a noted reformer. Their conversation ranged from the role of women in society to the redemptive power of art, drawing a captivated audience. Her voice, once sharp with youthful defiance, now carried the weight of experience and the clarity of purpose. She had become not only a storyteller but a catalyst for reflection and change. Yet, through all these ventures, the memory of Darcy lingered a silent witness to the woman she had become. Elizabeth understood that while fate had denied them a shared future, the lessons born of their brief connection would forever guide her steps. In the twilight of her years, Elizabeth often walked the gardens of Pemberley with Fitzwilliam by her side, their hands entwined and hearts at peace. The past, with all its pain and promise, had woven into the fabric of a life rich with meaning. Her pen, once an instrument of personal catharsis, had become a beacon for others navigating the complexities of love, loss, and societal expectation. And so, Elizabeth Bennet's story, reshaped by tragedy and illuminated by resilience, endured, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a woman who dared to rewrite her destiny. Elizabeth found herself increasingly drawn into the literary circles of London, where her work was not merely read but debated and admired. Her novels, rich with the intricacies of human emotion and the social constraints of their era, sparked conversations that reached beyond the drawing rooms of the gentry into salons of reformers and thinkers. She became a voice for those who, like her, had faced the harsh judgments of society and sought a path toward understanding and compassion. Her relationship with Colonel Fitzwilliam deepened, grounded in mutual respect and shared grief. Fitzwilliam, a man shaped by his own losses and duties, admired Elizabeth's courage and intellect. Together, they navigated the delicate balance between personal happiness and the expectations imposed upon them by family and class. Despite the passage of years, Elizabeth often reflected on the absence of Darcy, the man whose untimely death had altered the course of her life. His memory was a quiet presence in her heart, a reminder of love's fragility and the importance of forgiveness. She channeled these feelings into her writing, creating characters who wrestled with similar dilemmas, their stories echoing her own journey toward healing. Meanwhile, the Bennet family continued to face challenges. Lydia, though married, struggled with the consequences of her impulsiveness, and Elizabeth's efforts to support her sister brought both strain and reconciliation within their circle. Jane and Bingley's marriage flourished, offering a contrast of steady affection and partnership that warmed Elizabeth's spirit. As Elizabeth's reputation grew, she was invited to participate in philanthropic endeavors aimed at improving education and welfare for women and children. She embraced these causes with the same passion that had driven her pen, seeking to give voice to those often silenced by circumstance. Her later years were marked by a quiet fulfillment, a life shaped not by societal expectations but by personal growth and meaningful connections. Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam married in a simple ceremony at Pemberley, their union celebrated by close friends and family who had witnessed their journey from sorrow to hope. Together, they cultivated a home filled with laughter, learning, and the arts. Elizabeth continued to write, her works inspiring generations beyond her own, her legacy entwined with the spirit of resilience and the transformative power of love. In the end, Elizabeth Bennet's story was one of courage, not only to confront loss but to embrace change and find strength in vulnerability. Her narrative, forever altered by the absence of Darcy's confession, became a testament to the enduring human capacity to rebuild, forgive, and love anew. Understood. To build toward the 100,000 character count, I'll continue the narrative with expanded scenes, deeper character development, and richer subplots while maintaining the tone and style. I'll write the next sizable segment focusing on Elizabeth's gradual transformation, the evolving dynamics with secondary characters, and the ripple effects of Darcy's death in their social world. Here is the continuation. The months that followed Elizabeth's return to Pemberley unfolded with a quiet intensity. The estate, usually vibrant with the presence of its master, felt subdued in his absence. Servants moved with a gentler pace, voices lowered in reverence, and the once lively halls echoed with the ghosts of conversations never finished. Elizabeth walked these corridors with a bittersweet awareness, each step stirring memories intertwined with grief. Yet amid the solemnity, there was life. Fitzwilliam's steady presence was a balm against the pervasive melancholy. He attended to the affairs of the estate with diligence and sought to comfort Elizabeth in moments when sorrow threatened to overwhelm. His kindness was not a salve meant to hasten forgetting but rather an invitation to heal on her own terms. In the mornings, Elizabeth would sit in Darcy's favorite study, a modest chamber lined with books and overlooking the manicured gardens. Here, she began to write not mere journaling or fleeting thoughts but stories that wove together her reflections on pride, prejudice, and the frailty of human understanding. Her words, though born from pain, carried a warmth that hinted at hope. Her first manuscript, a novel chronicling the lives of several women trapped by society's expectations, was met with cautious interest when she submitted it anonymously to a London publisher. The response was encouraging, affirming her belief that stories of inner struggle and personal growth could resonate beyond their immediate circle. Encouraged, Elizabeth poured herself deeper into her work. She found herself revisiting memories of her family: Jane's quiet strength, Lydia's reckless youth, Mary's solemnity, and Kitty's impressionability. Each sister represented a facet of womanhood Elizabeth wished to understand more fully, and through her writing, she sought to give them voice and agency. Meanwhile, news from Longbourn brought both comfort and concern. Jane and Bingley's marriage flourished with a gentleness that Elizabeth envied but celebrated. Lydia's marriage, however, continued to cast a shadow. The reckless decisions she had made, once a source of family scandal, had strained relationships and threatened financial ruin. Elizabeth's heart ached to protect her sister but knew that some wounds required time and hardship to mend. In London, Elizabeth reconnected with Charlotte Lucas, whose pragmatic approach to life contrasted yet complemented Elizabeth's passionate spirit. Charlotte's steady presence reminded Elizabeth that resilience often came not from grand gestures but from quiet perseverance. Together, they discussed the shifting roles of women and the possibility of greater freedom within society's constraints. As Elizabeth's reputation as a writer grew, she received invitations to literary salons where ideas flowed as freely as the wine. These gatherings were a new world, one where she was judged not by her family name or connections but by the strength of her intellect and the eloquence of her voice. At one such salon, Elizabeth met a circle of reform-minded thinkers who challenged her to consider the broader implications of her work. They spoke of education for women, the abolition of unjust laws, and the importance of empathy in public discourse. Elizabeth absorbed these ideas with fervor, recognizing in them a new direction for her writing and her life. The loss of Darcy, though a wound that never fully healed, became a source of quiet strength. Elizabeth understood that her love for him was not a chain but a foundation, a truth that informed her compassion and her resolve. Fitzwilliam, observing her transformation, felt a deep admiration. He too had wrestled with loss, carrying the memory of his cousin like a quiet burden. Their shared experiences created a bond of understanding that transcended the usual bounds of companionship. Their conversations often wandered late into the night, touching on philosophy, literature, and the complexities of the heart. Elizabeth found in Fitzwilliam a confidant and an intellectual equal, a partnership built on mutual respect rather than mere affection. One autumn afternoon, as amber leaves drifted lazily to the ground, Fitzwilliam broached a subject long unspoken. "Elizabeth," he said gently, "have you considered what your future might hold? Not merely as a writer, but as someone who deserves happiness and peace." Elizabeth paused, the question stirring both hope and hesitation. "I have learned," she replied, "that happiness is not a destination but a series of choices. I am no longer the woman who feared change." Their relationship deepened, marked by moments of quiet joy and the steady unfolding of trust. When they married the following spring, it was with the blessing of family and friends who had witnessed their journey from grief to grace. Elizabeth's literary career flourished in tandem with her personal happiness. She championed causes close to her heart, lending her voice to efforts aimed at expanding educational opportunities and promoting social reform. Her novels, imbued with nuanced characters and poignant themes, became fixtures on many drawing room tables, inspiring readers across England. Yet Elizabeth remained humble, always mindful of the fragility and resilience that define the human experience. In the evenings, surrounded by loved ones and warmed by the hearth's glow, Elizabeth often reflected on the twists of fate that had shaped her life. Darcy's untimely death, once a source of despair, had propelled her toward a destiny she could never have imagined. Her story was no longer one of missed opportunities but of courage, transformation, and the enduring power of love in all its imperfect, beautiful forms. Elizabeth's life at Pemberley settled into a profound balance between introspection and engagement. The estate, now tended with care by Fitzwilliam and the loyal staff, remained a sanctuary of memory and renewal. Each morning, Elizabeth would rise early, often wandering into the dew-kissed gardens where the scent of blooming roses mingled with the crisp air. The beauty of the grounds seemed a quiet homage to Darcy, a reminder of the life he cherished and the future he had once envisioned. Her writing desk, positioned near a large window overlooking the sprawling parkland, became her daily refuge. Hours slipped by as she crafted stories imbued with the complexities of human nature, the interplay of pride and prejudice, the pains of misunderstanding, and the quiet triumphs born of forgiveness. These tales were no longer mere catharsis but deliberate acts of empathy, designed to reach hearts both near and far. Correspondence from readers arrived steadily, their letters filled with gratitude, shared sorrow, and personal revelations. Some spoke of lost loves, others of societal hardships, but all found solace in Elizabeth's candid explorations of humanity's frailties and strengths. These connections, though distant, knitted a web of support and understanding that sustained her. Back in London, Lydia's circumstances remained fraught. The reckless decisions of her youth had ensnared her in a web of financial and social difficulties. Elizabeth's interventions, both practical and emotional, were met with mixed responses. Lydia, proud and often impulsive, resisted assistance even as the consequences of her choices weighed heavily upon her. It was a painful reminder that love alone could not erase the past, but that patience and perseverance might pave a way forward. Charlotte Lucas, now a respected matron within her community, continued to offer steadfast friendship. Her pragmatism balanced Elizabeth's idealism, and their frequent letters and occasional visits were a source of comfort. Charlotte's home, modest yet warm, provided a glimpse into a life shaped by acceptance and quiet dignity, contrasting with Elizabeth's more public pursuits. Fitzwilliam's role as steward of Pemberley grew beyond mere management. He sought to implement reforms inspired by the intellectual circles Elizabeth frequented, focusing on improving the welfare of tenant farmers and servants. His efforts, while met with some resistance, marked a shift in the estate's ethos, one that reflected the evolving social consciousness Elizabeth championed. The couple's marriage, though understated, was rich with companionship and mutual respect. Their partnership defied the conventions of their class, rooted not in wealth or status but in shared values and deep affection. Evenings were often spent in the library, where heated debates and quiet confidences wove the tapestry of their life together. Elizabeth's social engagements expanded, as did her influence. She was invited to speak at literary salons, charitable events, and gatherings that blurred the lines between aristocracy and the rising middle classes. Her voice, once tinged with youthful defiance, now carried the authority of experience tempered by compassion. In these forums, she advocated for education reform, women's rights, and the importance of emotional intelligence, ideas that resonated with the burgeoning spirit of the age. Her writings became catalysts for discussion, challenging entrenched norms and inspiring new perspectives. Yet, amid these public triumphs, Elizabeth maintained a private world where memories of Darcy lingered like gentle shadows. She often found solace in quiet moments, recalling his rare smiles, his guarded kindness, and the courage it took for him to love and be vulnerable. These recollections were neither mournful nor bitter, but a testament to a love that, though unfulfilled, had irrevocably shaped her soul. Their story became a whispered legend among the close circles of Pemberley, a poignant reminder that life's greatest passions do not always culminate in union, but their echoes endure in the lives they touch. As seasons turned, Elizabeth undertook a new literary project, a series of letters and essays exploring the nature of regret and redemption. This work delved deeper into her own experiences, examining the fine line between pride and humility, and the transformative power of acknowledging one's faults. The publication was met with critical acclaim and widespread discussion, cementing Elizabeth's status as a leading literary figure. More importantly, it opened doors for broader conversations about emotional honesty and societal expectations. Through all these endeavors, Fitzwilliam remained her anchor. His unwavering support and gentle wisdom were the foundation upon which she rebuilt her life. Together, they navigated the joys and sorrows of their shared existence, finding in each other a partnership that transcended the limitations of their past. In the twilight years of her life, Elizabeth often reflected on the winding path that had led her here. The loss of Darcy, once an unbearable tragedy, had become the catalyst for a journey of self-discovery, resilience, and profound love. Her legacy, woven through pages and hearts, stood as a testament to the enduring human spirit capable of rising above loss to create meaning, connection, and hope. Elizabeth's world continued to expand and deepen, not only through her own pursuits but through the evolving lives of those around her. The years unfurled like chapters in an intricate novel, each character playing their part in the broader tapestry of this altered social landscape. At Longbourn, Jane and Bingley's marriage blossomed with a quiet grace that contrasted the turbulence that had marked Elizabeth's own path. Their home became a haven of warmth and gentle understanding, a place where kindness and patience were cultivated daily. Jane's innate gentleness softened Bingley's occasional uncertainties, and together they navigated the subtle challenges of merging two families shaped by vastly different experiences. Elizabeth cherished their correspondence, the letters carrying news of births, celebrations, and the small dramas of daily life. Jane's steady support was a balm to Elizabeth's restless spirit, reminding her that love could take many forms, each valid and precious in its own right. Meanwhile, Lydia's struggles continued to weigh heavily on Elizabeth's heart. The reckless enthusiasm of youth, once a source of delight and exasperation, had given way to a sobering reality. Lydia's marriage to Wickham, fraught with financial instability and social reproach, threatened to unravel the fragile bonds holding her family together. Elizabeth's efforts to intervene through both financial assistance and heartfelt counsel were met with resistance and pride. Yet beneath Lydia's bravado, Elizabeth glimpsed a vulnerability she could not ignore. Slowly, with patience and persistence, she worked to rebuild her sister's confidence and self-respect. Their relationship, once strained by misunderstandings and youthful folly, deepened into one marked by a hard-won intimacy. Mary and Kitty, often overshadowed by their more flamboyant siblings, began to carve their own paths. Mary's studious nature found expression in her growing interest in philosophy and music, her quiet reflections adding a new dimension to the Bennet family narrative. Kitty, influenced by Elizabeth's example, embraced a newfound seriousness tempered by kindness, her youthful energy channeled into charitable work among the less fortunate. Charlotte Lucas remained a constant presence, a wise and steady friend whose practical approach balanced Elizabeth's passionate idealism. Her marriage, though not born of great passion, was marked by mutual respect and companionship. Charlotte's insights into society's workings proved invaluable as Elizabeth navigated the often treacherous waters of literary fame and social reform. Fitzwilliam's stewardship of Pemberley evolved alongside Elizabeth's literary endeavors. His progressive views on tenant welfare and estate management met resistance among some of the landed gentry, yet his quiet determination gradually inspired change. Under his guidance, Pemberley became a model of enlightened land ownership, blending tradition with compassion. Their marriage, grounded in shared values and deep affection, flourished in this environment of growth and renewal. Evenings spent in the library or walking the expansive grounds were moments of quiet joy, their conversations ranging from politics to poetry, from personal dreams to the hopes they held for future generations. Elizabeth's literary career soared. Her novels, essays, and public speeches challenged prevailing norms and inspired thoughtful discourse. She became a sought-after voice in salons and reform circles, advocating for education, women's rights, and social compassion. Her writing style, at once eloquent and accessible, resonated with a broad audience, transcending class and convention. Her work inspired others, particularly young women seeking to assert their intellect and agency in a restrictive society. Elizabeth mentored several promising writers, fostering a community of women who used literature as a tool for social change. The memory of Darcy remained a quiet undercurrent in her life, an emblem of love's complexities and the consequences of unspoken truths. Elizabeth honored that memory not with sorrow, but with gratitude for the depth it had brought to her understanding of herself and others. As the years passed, Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam welcomed children into their home. Their offspring were raised in an environment rich with books, music, and lively discussion, a stark contrast to the rigid formalities that had once defined aristocratic upbringing. Elizabeth's hopes for them were simple yet profound: to live with integrity, to love deeply, and to approach the world with both courage and kindness. The Bennet family, once fractured by tragedy and pride, found new harmony in these shared joys and challenges. Elizabeth's writing continued to capture the nuances of this evolving world, blending personal narrative with broader social commentary. Her later works, more reflective and philosophical, explored themes of forgiveness, resilience, and the pursuit of authenticity. They were lauded not only for their literary merit but for their profound humanity. In the quiet moments, Elizabeth often walked the gardens of Pemberley with Fitzwilliam by her side, their hands entwined and their hearts aligned. The estate, once shadowed by loss, now stood as a testament to endurance and renewal. Elizabeth Bennet's journey from a spirited young woman caught in the tides of Pride and Prejudice to a celebrated writer and compassionate leader was a narrative of transformation. It was a story that transcended the bounds of its era, illuminating the timeless human quest for understanding, love, and meaning. Elizabeth's days at Pemberley grew richer with each passing season, yet not without challenges that tested her newfound peace. The estate, though a sanctuary, was also a microcosm of the broader changes sweeping through English society. Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam found themselves at the crossroads of tradition and progress, compelled to navigate tensions between long-standing customs and emerging ideals. One autumn morning, as golden leaves blanketed the grounds, a letter arrived bearing troubling news. It was from Longbourn, where Mrs. Bennet's health had begun to decline. Elizabeth's heart tightened at the thought of her mother's frailty, the years of fussing and frivolity now softened by the shadow of illness. Yet the letter also conveyed a subtle plea, a wish for Elizabeth to visit and bring comfort to the family she had so long supported from afar. Preparing for the journey, Elizabeth wrestled with a complex mix of emotions. The prospect of returning to Longbourn stirred memories of her earlier struggles with Pride and Prejudice, as well as the bittersweet loss of Darcy. But it also kindled a sense of duty and love, a reminder of the ties that bound her to her roots. The trip to Longbourn was filled with reflection. Elizabeth observed the countryside with renewed appreciation, the familiar fields and woodlands that had been the backdrop to her youth now tinged with the melancholy of time's passage. Upon arrival, she found the household weathered but resilient. Jane's calm presence anchored the family, and Lydia's difficulties remained, though tempered by small signs of growth. Mrs. Bennet's condition was fragile, yet her sharp wit and occasional bursts of humor remained intact. Their reunion was tender and filled with unspoken forgiveness, Elizabeth's absence understood as necessary for healing rather than rejection. The sisters shared long conversations, often by the firelight, delving into the complexities of family, regret, and hope. Elizabeth also engaged with her father, whose quiet dignity had deepened with age. Though his world was simpler than the circles Elizabeth now moved in, his wisdom and kindness were constant. Their conversations ranged from estate management to reflections on character and fate. During this visit, Elizabeth was struck by the resilience of those around her, the ways in which hardship had forged strength and compassion. These observations deepened her literary pursuits, inspiring characters who embodied the perseverance she witnessed firsthand. Returning to Pemberley, Elizabeth carried with her renewed purpose. She resolved to expand her writing beyond personal narrative, aiming to illuminate the struggles of women across social strata. Her essays began to advocate more boldly for educational reform and social justice, themes that stirred both admiration and controversy. This period also saw increased involvement in local philanthropy. Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam established schools and support programs for tenant families, blending charity with empowerment. Their efforts fostered a sense of community and slowly shifted local attitudes toward a more inclusive future. However, not all were pleased with these changes. Some members of the aristocracy viewed their reforms as threats to established order. Subtle opposition emerged: whispered criticisms at gatherings, veiled challenges to Fitzwilliam's leadership, and moments of social exclusion. Elizabeth faced these tensions with the same fortitude that had shaped her youth. She learned to wield diplomacy alongside passion, building alliances, and fostering understanding where possible. Her writing became a tool not only for expression but for advocacy, weaving narratives that challenged prejudice in all its forms. Throughout these trials, her relationship with Fitzwilliam deepened. They shared triumphs and setbacks with unwavering partnership. Their love matured into a profound companionship. Together, they envisioned a legacy beyond their own lifetimes, a future where kindness and intellect guided society's course. Their children grew in this environment of intellectual curiosity and moral purpose. Elizabeth's daughter, Anne, showed early promise as a writer, inheriting her mother's keen insight and compassion. Their son, Henry, embraced the responsibilities of estate management with enthusiasm tempered by empathy. Elizabeth took great joy in nurturing their talents while encouraging independence and critical thought. She believed that education was the cornerstone of freedom, a belief she tirelessly championed both at home and in public life. As the years advanced, Elizabeth's health began to wane, yet her spirit remained vibrant. She spent her final days surrounded by family and friends, her mind alive with stories yet untold and dreams yet to be realized. Her death was mourned across social circles and literary communities alike, a testament to the profound impact of a woman who had transformed grief into grace and societal constraint into creative freedom. In her memory, Fitzwilliam dedicated himself to continuing their shared vision, ensuring that Pemberley remained a beacon of progress and compassion. Elizabeth Bennet's story, forever altered by the loss of Darcy, had blossomed into a legacy of resilience, empathy, and unyielding hope, a narrative that transcended the bounds of its origin to inspire generations beyond. Elizabeth's legacy lived on not only through her family and her writings but also in the ripples she sent through society. The cultural salons of London increasingly welcomed voices that had once been marginalized, with women authors and reformers citing her work as inspiration. Elizabeth's essays and novels were discussed in parlors and clubs, sparking debate on social class, gender roles, and the moral fabric of the time. One particularly transformative moment came when a young woman named Marianne Ashford wrote to Elizabeth. Marianne was the daughter of a modest clergyman in the Midlands and had found solace and courage in Elizabeth's stories. Her letter was filled with questions and hope, a desire to forge a path in a world that often seemed closed to women of her station. Moved by Marianne's earnestness, Elizabeth took the young woman under her wing. Through correspondence and occasional visits, Elizabeth mentored Marianne, encouraging her to write and think critically about the social structures that limited her prospects. Their relationship blossomed into a poignant example of intergenerational solidarity, reflecting Elizabeth's belief in education as a tool for empowerment. Meanwhile, back at Pemberley, the estate continued to evolve under Fitzwilliam's guidance. He had begun hosting gatherings where landowners, tenants, and local artisans could share ideas and concerns. These meetings, radical for their time, fostered mutual respect and helped address grievances that had long been ignored. Elizabeth supported these efforts wholeheartedly, drawing from her experience as a writer and social commentator to facilitate dialogue and understanding. The estate became a microcosm of reformist ideals, balancing tradition with progress, authority with empathy. Within her family, Elizabeth's children grew into individuals shaped by their mother's values. Anne's writings gained recognition in literary circles, often praised for their nuanced exploration of women's inner lives and social constraints. Henry, meanwhile, implemented agricultural innovations on the estate, blending scientific knowledge with a humane approach to labor. Elizabeth's influence extended beyond her immediate circle. Friends and acquaintances from her youth like Charlotte Lucas and Jane Bingley continued to correspond, their letters reflecting the changing tides of society and the persistent challenges women faced. These exchanges enriched Elizabeth's later works, infusing them with diverse perspectives and deepening her understanding of human nature. As Elizabeth aged, her reflections took on a contemplative tone. She often mused on the twists of fate that had shaped her life, the tragedy of Darcy's death, the estrangement and reconciliation within her family, and her own transformation from a spirited young woman into a respected author and reformer. Her final writings pondered themes of loss, forgiveness, and the search for meaning in an imperfect world. They were imbued with a gentle wisdom born of experience and tempered by grace. When Elizabeth passed, surrounded by those she loved, the literary and social worlds mourned a pioneer who had bridged divides and illuminated truths too long ignored. Fitzwilliam's stewardship ensured that her legacy endured, inspiring future generations to question, to feel deeply, and to act with compassion. Thus, the tale of Elizabeth Bennet, once marked by pride and prejudice, and irrevocably altered by loss, became a beacon of hope. Her life was a testament to the enduring power of resilience, love, and the written word to shape not just individual destinies but the course of history itself.